Tip Today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tip Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number, it won't cost you to make a call. And Leanne is looking after the show today. Awful to hear about another death on our roads on this run-up to Christmas. Coming up on the show this morning, a group representing people who have lost loved ones in fatal road collisions has called on the Minister of Transport to leave families alone to grieve at the roadsides. PAWS Animal Rescues say funding has been cut by 87%. Ruth Coppinger's fox hunting bill was voted down in the Dáil last night. We'll hear from some of our listeners on that. The Drug Education Officer John Leahy will be with us live in studio. Muriel and Charlotte will talk nutrition. So all of that and lots more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tipfm.com. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers. The Irish Independent is dominated by a photograph of President Catherine Connolly hosted environmental activist Greta Thunberg in the Iris, and those photographs are right across the newspapers today. The main story on the Indo, however, the Taoiseach is on borrowed time, according to party sources, after a bruising Fianna Fáil meeting and a review into its presidential campaign that many feel failed to answer key questions around his handling of the debacle. Let us move to the Irish Times, and again that photograph of the President and Greta there. And the main story on the Times today, again, around the Taoiseach, the possibility of a rebellion against Taoiseach Micheál Martin's leadership of Fianna Fáil over the party's disastrous presidential election campaign appears to be quelled now, according to the Times today. Also reading on the front of the Times that flu cases continue to increase, with hospitalisations rising by almost 20% in the past week as emergency departments see unprecedented attendances even at this time of year. The Irish Daily Mail, and they're leading with the story that President Catherine Connolly has been criticised for hosting Greta Thunberg at the Iris just days after the activist posted a video deemed inflammatory and lacking sensitivity by Jewish groups. The Irish Examiner today, and they're leading with the story that the GAA is planning a new high-performance licence in a bid to tackle juggernaut intercounty team costs, which could reach an unsustainable 120 million annually. Also on the Examiner today, a legal challenge taken against the government's new guidelines for apartment building standards is to be referred to the Court of Justice of the EU. And also on the Examiner today, reading that Gardaí have had to launch 41 investigations into cash taken as evidence, which has gone missing over the last 5 years. That's according to PAC, the Public Accounts Committee. And finally, a look at the Farmers Journal, because it's on your shelves today. And the lead story there, and no surprises, I suppose, to realise Mercosur is making the front page of the Farmers Journal this week. Pat O'Toole telling us that the government is facing a rural revolt as it continues to hedge its position on Mercosur in advance of a defining vote later on this week. So let's look at what's making headlines. Would you like to make comment on any of that? And if you would, once again, 083 311 3311. Now, a group representing people who have lost loved ones in fatal traffic collisions has called on the Minister of Transport to leave families alone to grieve at the roadside. Transport Infrastructure Ireland and the Department of Transport's Policy for Local Authorities says memorials are not allowed on motorways, dual carriageways and roads with a speed limit over 60k. Now, the founder of PARC, Susan Gray, has called on the Minister to make a clear statement on the changes and criticised the lack of engagement with families. Susan Gray joins me now. Good morning to you, Susan.
Good morning, Fran, and thanks for having me on.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Could I take you back to 2004, Susan? You lost your husband in a road collision.
Yeah, on St. Stephen's Night 2004. My husband, Steve, was out doing his hackney work, and he was coming home. And we stopped at the side of the road to let 2 passengers out, and there's a long straight bit of the road, and then it's shown just about a mile from our home. A young unaccompanied learner driver.
Susan, I beg your pardon to cut across you. It's just your line isn't all that clear, so I'm going to ask Leanne if she would to just maybe have a look at that for us, and we'll see if we can make that a little more clear for you, because Susan's story is very, very interesting indeed. It's about those memorials you see on the roadside, paying tribute, I suppose, to lost loved ones in the spot where they lost their lives. Now, we're wondering how you feel about that, because the TII having issues with it and saying that memorials are not allowed on motorways, dual carriageways and roads with a speed limit over 60 km. Now, the reasoning behind that is, I suppose, a safety one indeed, and if you're seen to be erecting these memorials and stuff, there may be safety issues on the road at the time. Let me go back and just see if that line to Susan is any better. Susan, good morning to you again.
Good morning.
Oh, that's much.
Is that better now?
That's much better now, Susan. And thank you for that. You were telling us about your husband, and we just lost a lot of it. Will you tell me what happened to him?
Right, on St. Stephen's Night 2004, my husband was out working for us. He was a hackney driver. We had our own business. And at 4:30 in the morning, he was dropping off 2 passengers and a young unaccompanied learner driver in a long straight bit of the road, and then his showing ploughed into. Steve was lifted out of his shoes, thrown over the ditch into a field. And 15 minutes later, he was found by people that lived in a house nearby who was awoken from their sleep because of the impact of the crash. And a year later, Steve died instantly at the scene, I'm told. The young unaccompanied learner driver was given a lift home from the scene, and he wasn't tested for alcohol or drugs or anything. I found that totally unacceptable, so that's why I started PARC a year later. And we got mandatory testing at crash scenes 5 years later of all drivers involved in fatal crashes, like they have done in Northern Ireland for years before us. A year after Steve died, I decided I really needed a memorial at the spot or near the spot where he died. I didn't want him to ever be forgotten, and to send a clear message to people driving by that they'll remember him, and that's a reminder somebody has died here, so be careful on the roads. I approached Donegal County Council, and they sent an engineer out, and he told me all the guidelines. Plaque had to be so far in from the road and a particular size and position and everything, so that it wouldn't be a road safety issue. I abided by all that, and it gives me and our 2 children who are adults now, Laura and Stephen, great solace to know that there's a memorial there. Now, to hear through the media, the Daily Mail last Thursday rang me and wanted comments on a policy that the government brought in October to ban all memorials in the future, roadside memorials, and that existing memorials wouldn't necessarily have to be removed, but it wasn't clear, Fran. So I was really concerned, and I rang our Minister for Road Safety, Sean Kenny, on Thursday evening, and he was unaware of any of this, and he said he would look into it and get back to me. But he agreed that it would be devastating for families who wanted to put up a plaque.
Yeah, I
It's
know
not
the
much to
Minister for Transport, Darragh O'Brien, as well, Susan, said that there would be sensitive engagement with families of bereaved, and he emphasised that no decision had yet been taken. But there is, I agree with you, there's a lack of clarity on this, because we went on to the Tipperary County Council site as well, just to see, and the last that anything was written up on this policy was back in 2017.
And if the guidelines were okay for me and give me permission to do that, and the council signed off on it that it wasn't a road hazard, road safety hazard or anything else, why are other families now in the future not allowed to do likewise? Now, Minister O'Brien said there's no final decision made yet.
Yeah.
Well, we'd urge him to make it a priority and make a decision before Christmas. This came to the attention of bereaved families at the festive season. It could not have come out at a worse time, when people are grieving their lost loved ones, going to memorials, having a horrible Christmas, and now to hear of ones that have recently, we have 181 road deaths now. Like, what are they left to believe? It gives families such comfort. We've had calls from families saying that they get far more solace at the roadside where their loved one died, and they can feel their loved one's presence there far more than at the graveyard. Is he taking that away from families?
Well, seemingly this paper that we're making reference to is arguing that the presence of roadside memorials introduces significant safety risks due to increased pedestrian activity in hazardous locations, stopping and parking vehicle manoeuvres, with some providing a distraction to other road users. Do you see anything at all in any of that, Susan?
Well, what I'd say, if there are people, bereaved families, that have put up a memorial ignoring the guidelines that the council have there, then they're in a different category and they have to be spoken to. But ones that have followed the guidelines and the council could see no hazard, then let them remain. Don't have families worried that the council might come back to them with new guidelines. It's cruel beyond belief.
Yeah, and they're speaking about sensitive engagement with families, but nobody has made contact with you or your organisation, for example.
No, but we can. It's obvious why they didn't. There would be uproar like there is now. So I believe they just wanted to get the policy signed off on. And how the Daily Mail got that information is amazing. And we have great praise for them. They said they got it through an FOI. So, but it shows, Fran, that we have to be vigilant and keep an eye on all this and keep on talking to the government to see if they'd see sense. And Minister O'Brien says they'll be compassionate, but they haven't alerted anybody of this policy. Where's the compassion there? Where's the empathy there? Nothing.
Plus, there's no reference to what you're saying to me, which is some of these memorials can act as a deterrent of people behaving badly on the roads, because, you know, it's very sobering to see a memorial on the side of the road where somebody was unfortunately killed. So did that point come up in anything at all? No,
and you're totally right. All we can see is positives from a memorial.
Yeah.
It helps the family. It's a reminder at the roadside to other people that's using that road that somebody has died there. And it's a sobering thought. So why ban? Ban the ones that don't want to comply with the guidelines. but allow the ones that will do anything just to get their plaque up. They will move it back as far as the council wants, in from the road, and all the other guidelines.
Yeah, the height restrictions and the lighting, all of these things that they're concerned about.
And I didn't mind abiding by any of them. But before I go,
sure,
can I give our condolences to all the 181 families that are just heartbroken this year because, all the families that's been heartbroken over the years. But there's 10 now that have died in Tipperary alone.
Yeah.
We had 2 road deaths for the entirety of 2024 in Tipperary. We have a great TD there that works with us. Deputy Michael Murphy is the chair of the Transport Committee. And we work closely with him and Deputy Emer Curry.
In fact, Michael Murphy spoke out about this initiative from the TII, didn't he?
Yes, he was. I'm glad you mentioned that. He was the only one who made a public statement, a very clear one, saying there shouldn't be a universal ban. There must be discussions.
So where do you go with this now, Susan? What are you waiting for here at this point? Clarity, I guess?
Oh, we will keep asking Deputy Murphy and Deputy Curry to raise parliamentary questions in this and every month to see when Minister O'Brien's going to make his final decision and what that decision is, and to make a clear statement on existing memorials, what's happening there. Can every one of them bereaved families rest in their beds at night, knowing that they will not be tampered with?
On behalf of PARC, you are saying to people that we need to use the roads with awareness, responsibility and care, Susan.
Yeah, that's what we stand for, and all our members have lost loved ones in road crashes, and we're just working to try to get a message out, working with the government to try to get laws that are not working, to get them enforced properly. There's so many things that we have to do. And I spoke at the Transport Committee on the 8th of October when Deputy Murphy invited me, and I had 10 points of a wish list of parks of what we believe must be addressed by the government and the RSA and the Gardaí if they are serious about reducing road deaths and serious injuries. And hopefully in the new year we will continue our work and we will keep a close eye on the memorials, and the responses we get from parliamentary questions, we will be going to the media with them. So I cannot thank the media enough. Without them and without the TDs that's helping us now.
Well, I'm just looking at the screen in front of me here, Susan, and you know, our listeners are certainly agreeing with you where these memorials are concerned and thinking that this is ridiculous and they can't see any issue from a safety point of view with them. So it's interesting. We'll see what happens. More than 20 years at this point since you lost your husband. I'm just thinking about the milestones along the way. Is Christmas still really difficult for you, Susan?
Well, you never forget, but our 2 children, they were 10 and 12 when Steve died, and they grew up straight away. Their childhood was gone. Starting PARC helped me a lot. It made me focus, rather than the negative, on positive things that I can do in Steve's memory. And Christmas will never be the same. But our 2 children, it's lovely to have them, and we just celebrate the best we can. But Steve's always in our minds, always. And what we'd give to have him back. But what's done is done. So we have to move on.
I can hear in your voice it's still raw for you after all of these years, Susan, of course.
I'm totally surprised that I cannot talk about him. I can talk about roadside and facts and figures until the cows come home. I really can. But when it comes to personal stuff like Steve, I was traumatised as I was the day he died, because we never got any justice. And it was horrible the way he was treated. And his injuries were horrific. And just a year after Steve died, I got a registered letter in the post from the solicitor representing the 21-year-old that killed him. And he was giving me 10 days to accept total liability for the extensive damage that Steve's body caused his client's Hackney van, or caddy van. And I remember opening it. I had to sign. It was a registered letter, and our postman said, "Susan, can you sign this?" And I read the address, and it said, "To the personal representative of Stephen Gray, deceased." And I said to the postman, "That's a horrific way to address an envelope. Why don't you just say Susan Gray?" And I signed for it, and I opened it in the hall. The kids, Laura and Stephen, were just returning to school after the Christmas period, a year after Steve died, so thank God they weren't there. And I just fell to the ground. I thought, can't get any worse than this. How could anybody be so cruel? And the letter went on, "If you do not accept, my client will take a claim to the Personal Injuries Board." I ignored it, and in May that year, I got a letter from the Personal Injuries Board saying that they had received a claim, that the young lad was looking for $2,450 for the damage that Steve's body caused to his vehicle, and for loss of earnings, which was ongoing, and for the stress and whatever that he was suffering. I went to bed the night I got the letter, and I prayed to Steve. I said, "Steve, can this get any worse? I'm sitting in our sitting room most days, waiting on that young lad to come to the door. I know he didn't go out to kill you, Steve, but I need him to apologise and say that you'll always be in his mind." I says, "He's not coming to my door. This is the letter he's sending me." So the next morning I got up, and I was a total different woman. And I swear to God, Steve, in strength. I woke up and I thought, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get the laws changed. Don't have anybody else lying in a field dying while the young person that killed them is given a lift home. And I formed PARC. Senator Jim Higgins helped me at the time toward a petition. And 5 years later, we took loads of people joined us. We took 40,000 signatures to Dublin to the Transport Minister. And then in 2011, the great Transport Minister, Leo Varadkar, signed it into law that it was mandatory now to test all drivers involved in fatal or serious crashes. We had met with Nuala Lone, the Ombudsman in Northern Ireland, and she explained that it was mandatory there. And she had said to me, and I'll never forget her words, "Mrs. Gray, if one of my officers in Northern Ireland did not automatically test all drivers involved in a fatal crash, they themselves would have committed a very serious offence." And she later sent me a copy of their policy and procedures in Northern Ireland. And that started me off, and I thought, that's it now. I've done what I needed to do. But then the learner driver laws, and we had met the young lad driving away unaccompanied, and we reported to the guards, and they said, "We cannot approach this individual. Mrs. Gray, half the country's driving like that. If we approached him, it may be classed as harassment." Them words are embedded in my brain. So we went then to get the learner driver laws strengthened. And then families were coming to us that had lost loved ones in crashes where the person that killed them had 3 life disqualifications. And the guards were unaware until sometime during the investigation. I could talk forever. There are so many issues. but it keeps me going.
Well, they're incredible stories, Susan, and your own story is absolutely incredible. And I can't imagine what you've been going through over the years. But thank you so much for your time this morning, Susan.
Thank you.
And we'll continue to follow the story. Obviously, you look after yourself, and thank you so much.
Okay, will do.
Good morning to you. That's Susan Gray speaking to us there on behalf of her organisation, PARC. How do you feel about that? 1800 938 007.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Tip Today. Now, following on from that conversation with Susan Gray, one of our listeners says, Fran, condolences to anybody who's lost a loved one on the roads. This is a sensitive subject, but some of the memorials are getting bigger and they are a distraction. Most accidents took place at dangerous spots, and having people parking and standing on the roads is adding to the danger. I think a simple cross is adequate and it should be allowed. Well, when you're applying to have a memorial erected, I mean, there's quite a lot to go through in the application process. I mean, you need, well, to begin with, you need a letter of application, but you need a general location map and a sketch of the proposed layout, including photographs if possible, and also the dimensions. And you need written permission from the landowner, written permission from the next of kin, and that kind of thing as well. So there's a lot of rules and regulations around this already. Now, whether they're always adhered to, I don't know, but it certainly is a very sensitive subject. Kevin was on to say, Kevin's full of empathy. Obviously, he says, surely the memorial in the graveyard is enough. Cluttering up the roadside. What a thing to say, Kevin. Cluttering up the roadsides is not going to bring the person back. Liam was on to us, and he says, Fran, now that the report is out, it will be interesting to have Jim Gavin on, as the report seems to suggest that he, well, I can't use that word, but he was economical with some of what he said. Liam, if I can sum up your WhatsApp to us today. We would love to have Jim Gavin on, but I don't think he's doing any media at the moment. I have a funny feeling, though, that there may be a book. Now, PAWS Animal Rescue are calling for a review of the annual welfare grant allocation awarded to their organisation under the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine's Animal Welfare Grant Scheme for the current funding year. Chairperson of PAWS, Gina Hetherington, joins me now. Gina, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran. A long time no talk.
A long time no talk indeed, and always good to talk to you, Gina, and thank you. Will you just remind us about PAWS, just to begin with, and what you do exactly, Gina?
Well, PAWS landed in Tipperary after a 10-year stint in Kildare in 2006, and we take in abandoned and unwanted dogs, and we get them neutered, vaccinated, microchipped, all the veterinary care required, which in a lot of cases there's a lot of orthopaedic stuff, and we get them new homes, be it in Ireland or overseas. So that is the scope of what we do.
And of course you make sure that these animals are looked after from a veterinarian point of view. So what you do costs a lot of money, Gina.
It does. Our average annual veterinary fees are in the region of €80,000, and that's in all the preceding years. From the time we arrived here, well, I'm just talking about the Tipperary situation now. From 2006, our annual vets fees have ranged around 80 to 100,000.
Now, the allocations that you've had over the years, it built up from small change really to about 76,000. Reduction now to 10,000. What happened in the meantime? Why the reduction, Gina?
Well, what happened in the meantime is that we've spoken about it before, the situation that we've ended up in here with the County Council Environment Section want us to reroute the drains from underneath the kennels for the washout water and reroute it to 2 tanks. Now, this should have been done on day one, but we got cowboy, as the man says, and he had some of the drains going out onto the land, which we weren't aware of. Now, the Environment Section have issued a Section 12, and they have told us that we have to get this work done. So it took us several months to get an engineer, and eventually we got an engineer from Dublin who was being sponsored by one of our donors. He's cost €10,000. He has drawn up plans for the County Council, and the County Council Environment Section submitted it to planning, and planning have come back and said, you need planning permission for the 2 tanks. Now, they've asked us to put in these 2 tanks, but now they're telling us we need planning permission to put in the 2 tanks. So that's where we are as we speak. But the last 12 months, I suppose, we've had to reduce capacity, obviously, of the animals on site because, you know, we were working on all these plans and getting sponsorship to do it, etc., which we have secured, thank God. There is a God out there. And but we're now at the point where we have to apply for planning. And so it's going to be Easter or the summer before we're back up to full capacity again.
Right, but the allocation of funding is based on the dog numbers, is it, Gina? It's
the allocation of funding is the greatest kept secret since the Vatican secrets. Nobody knows how they figure it out, and nobody will ever know how they figure it out. But the problem is that they've allocated us €10,000. Our vet fees at the moment currently stand at 10,800, and we're not even at the end of the year yet. That's the balance that we owe the vet. That's one vet, I might add. So when we get the drainage work completed and we're back up to full capacity by the spring, summer, we'll have no money. And the Department of Agriculture's own vets have done about 6 inspections this year, I would say, and they have recommended remedial improvements required in the kennel block itself, because we need to put in new flooring, and part of the drainage problem will be to dig up the centre aisle of the kennel block. So basically, when we get the drainage completed, we will have no money to do the repairs of the kennels. And it's left us in a shocking position. But, I mean, we're not alone. Cappergrain Horse Rescue in Tipperary, she had her funding cut by 50%. So did Burren Animal Rescue. They were nearly wiped off the planet.
And they don't have the drainage issues, obviously, that you have. So, again, we're back to the criteria around allocation of funding.
Exactly. And I understand we did not expect the same level of funding. Goodness gracious, we did not, because that was based on us having 60 animals here, and the vet's fees accordingly, and you know we also do a bit for the public, and we expected it definitely to be cut, but we did not expect such a savage cut of 87%. I mean, that's shocking.
Is there any process where you can appeal this in some way?
I submitted an appeal last Monday. I have heard nothing, but then the minister is on holidays from yesterday, to my knowledge. One of our local TDs is having a look at it for us to see what he can do. But I mean, it's the what word am I looking for? They have to let people see. It has to be public knowledge. I mean, 19 million to greyhound racing, and yet they've cut most of the animal rescue groups. And I mean, the minister's press release said increase in animal welfare allocations, and the increase actually comes to 400,000. That's all it comes to. That's not what I'd call a massive increase. When you look at the increase in some of the other so-called sports that the department, allocates money to. But, I mean, we are not going to be able to survive and do the work that's required with that kind of funding from the department.
And it goes without saying, Gina, you've a good record of compliance all along. You've gone along with all the regulations, all of the requirements. So you've behaved very responsibly over the years.
Always, because we're very much aware of the Department of Agriculture and the charities regulator. And it's so tight at the minute. Everything has to be perfect,
Yeah.
and which is fair enough. I agree with that 100%. But it's just, they had no discussion. I tried several times to get a face-to-face appointment with the people in the department who make these decisions, and I was turned down. It was all email. And I don't think you can get your point across by email. I think you have to have a face-to-face meeting with these people, but we weren't granted that. And I just think, everybody in Tipperary knows PAWS. Actually, most people nationwide know PAWS because we're very well known for the last 30 years. We're in operation. And, I was ready to retire. I'm 66 in 3 weeks' time, and I was ready to step down and let somebody else take the brunt of it, and then all this kicked off, and I said, I can't go anywhere now.
So you're stuck, as we say, Gina.
I am. I'd have to get this over the line first.
Because, in the meantime, I know the public is often very good to you as well. What can we do to help out, Gina?
Well, first of all, if the people would have a word with their local TD and get this funding reviewed, because it's all very fine right this minute. But when this operation is back up to full capacity by spring, summer, this is going to cripple us. It really is. And, of course, donations are always welcome. There are some very good people out there. We have a lady came forward who is willing to pay for the drainage work, and that was €80,000.
Wow.
But we can't go ahead with it until we get the planning permission. And the council have said something about, the planning department said something about unauthorised structures on the site. And the unauthorised structures are a garden shed that we have a washing machine in, and a little porta cabin that the staff have their lunch in.
Oh, for God's sake.
And that's what they're calling unauthorised.
Really?
Yes. So be careful if you're putting up a garden shed, because you're supposed to get planning permission. It's as though they're nitpicking us at every single angle, and it's as though they're trying to get rid of us. And that's the truth. That's the way we feel at the minute.
All right, Gina, we'll be following the story, and as you say, you're urging listeners to get in touch with their public reps on this and maybe get something brought up where the Dáil is concerned. But in the meantime, Gina, thanks for coming on with us today. We wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fran.
Good morning to you. That's Gina Hetherington there of PAWS. Big cut to that funding there. And they do tremendous work, absolutely tremendous work altogether. I'm sure you'll agree. We'll take a break, back in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat, and welcome back to the second hour of Tip Today. 1800 938 007. The text and WhatsApp is 083 311 3311. Now, huge reaction to my conversation just before the break there with Philip, and several people who are part of various hunts around the county coming on to say, look, we always get permission from the landowner. We're properly insured. We look after fences. Mick was telling us that even if they get a complaint afterwards that a fence was damaged or something like that, they will go back. They will send people back to do with some other person telling me that they have fencers that go with them on the hunt just to make sure that everything is kosher there. So there you go. It's something we're going to be getting back to, needless to say, on the programme, because I think we're speaking to Ruth Coppinger on the programme tomorrow. But let us move on to something completely different now, because John Leahy joins me. And John, of course, is Drug Education Officer with the HSE. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, Fran.
And good to talk to you today. There's something about Christmas, John, and particularly I would imagine that if you're if you're an addict, whether it's to drink or drugs. Is Christmas a particularly difficult time?
Most definitely, Fran, yeah. And I do feel like, say, with Christmas, drinking can be exaggerated and drug use can be exaggerated at this time of the year. And we would find, I suppose, working in the services, come when Christmas is over, a lot of people that are showing signs of problematic drug use, addiction to their drug use, addiction to their alcohol use, will start ringing the services looking for help. And like what happens is, I suppose, I do believe this down through the years working with people in addiction and I suppose who have problematic drug use, that consequences can come to the head over Christmas period, and them consequences are, drinking too much at home, getting in rows, not turning up for family occasions, like drink driving can happen, in all that point of view. And again, then just, people who are on the edge, I suppose, from problematic drug use, they probably have enough of that. They just get caught up in their drinking, and it can be a very lonely time for somebody who is showing signs of having problematic alcohol and drug use, because we can look at it, there's great fun and there's loads of parties, and for Christmas time it's exaggerated and we all have a great time with drinking, going out and all that. But for some people that are starting to become aware that alcohol is becoming a problem in their life, it's not a good time for them, and it often brings it, to the fore that they need to look at their drinking intake and their drug intake. And I often find that with people that, if you are asking yourselves questions over the Christmas period that you're drinking too much, you're going to a party that you don't really want to go, you're going into a scene where you're not feeling comfortable, it's not doing it for you anymore, and the biggest thing I see at that level of problematic use is they'll blame everything else around them, Fran. They'll blame, maybe their family, they're blaming their work, they're blaming themselves, they'd have negative thoughts about themselves, the confidence wouldn't be great. Maybe it's time to have a look at the alcohol and take alcohol out of your life. If you are drinking too much or drug using, in that point of view, that they're the signs that maybe alcohol is your issue. And whereas a lot of people will just...
Is the issue there, John, that people view alcoholics as, unfortunates who end up on the side of the road and that kind of... They have this perception of what an alcoholic is, and that's not me, even though I enjoy a drink, so to speak. Is that part of it?
That is a big part of it. A lot of people you would hear when they come in, when you start asking them about their alcohol use, and the first words they say, non-alcoholic. And I would always say, well, I'm not saying you are. I said, but these are the signs of problematic drug use and alcohol use. And what we find, there is another questionnaire that that's done with people to see their level of drinking that they're at, and there's a score average on that. And often those indicators, they often say if somebody is coming for help, well, alcohol is a problem. What it is, I would say I would try not to label people, let them make up their own mind on what it is or what it isn't. And you're right in saying people have so many different perceptions of, let's say, the word alcoholic, there's stigma to it.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. Is alcohol causing a problem in your life, in some area of life? It is. You need to address it. We need to take alcohol out of your life. And where, I suppose, the alcoholic come into it, then if it's serious enough, every agency, treatment centre will do their piece with them at that time to help the person. But there's voluntary support groups then that these people move on to, because there's no quick fix in this. If somebody has a problem with alcohol, and I believe this, Fran, in all my years of working in the area and working in the treatment centres, that some people can drink alcohol and it won't interfere with their personality, their lifestyle, their humour. They get up for work, they'll play their sport, they'll be family people, and all the engagements they have, their commitment to life and whatever that life is. But some people, when they drink alcohol, their personalities change. They get more angrier. They have no reliability. They won't turn up for family occasions. Their responsibilities are put on side because the drink is taken over. And if they're showing that side of they're saying that it's like, I often describe it as like a celiac. What does we tell celiacs, or the medical people tell people, don't eat bread. It's like that they're allergic to alcohol. And there is, I suppose, research out there to show that, with the grain and with the wheat that's in alcohol, they can often be allergic to that, and they have a reaction to it, and that can happen as well, Fran. So
that's interesting, because I often wondered, about that. I mean, over the years in the music business, I would have known people who were serious drinkers, but they weren't obstreperous in any way. They never caused grief or hassle. Whereas some guy who might take a few pints come home and he's a demon.
Yeah. And that's, how many times have we heard it, house devil and street angel. We'd hear, when I worked in the treatment centre, would hear that. And, and basically it comes down to being allergic to the alcohol. And I would say this to young people, there's no test that can be done. And often when I'm in schools and when I'm doing talks to parents' nights, and I would say it and I would explain it in that context, that if you're the in this, I suppose, Christmas period coming up, if you're the person that's going out there and, your friends are looking out for you, you're getting into fights, you're being ended up above in the hospital, the paramedics are calling to you, you're ended up down the guards barracks, your parents are constantly giving out to you, your friends are saying, you want to mind it. I would say to that young person or older, you need to look at your alcohol intake, because you're not the same. And you might think, I'm not drinking any more than my friends. And it's not about that. It's your reaction to the alcohol. And it's, and we do know this, and this is the problem with drinking. And when, I suppose, it goes overboard and you're drinking too much, you'll do things you wouldn't normally do if you hadn't alcohol.
Yes.
And that's a big indicator, because how many times do we hear people, saying, I'll go out for one or two. Next thing, all of a sudden, they don't come home. And we are in an era now with, cocaine use is on the increase. There's a huge normality to it. And I know people that are not taking cocaine anymore. I won't take it. That's fine when they're in their senses, no alcohol on board. Go down to town tonight or over the weekend, over the Christmas party, and you meet a few friends and there's a bit of cocaine there. You can't stop yourself if you have alcohol, because your inhibitions are down, you have no control of it.
And that mix of drugs and drink, is that particularly lethal, John?
It enhances, say with cocaine in particular, and a lot of people don't realise this, friend, that if you drink alcohol and take cocaine, it creates another substance in the body called coke-ethanol, which is way more toxic than alcohol or cocaine on its own. And we have to kind of keep putting the message out there, particularly with cocaine. We can't get good cocaine in Ireland, and people keep saying that cocaine, you don't have a hangover, you don't, different is, the people even come back and say it's even cheaper. But I know chaps who took cocaine there, and you mightn't have a hangover the day after, but they would have called, if they used it at the weekend, kind of suicidal Tuesday. Suicide ideation is very normal for people with cocaine use. Very normal, because it's an appetite suppressant. You don't, you won't eat when you're on it. It gives you great energy. It's a stimulant drug and it keeps you alert. Now, I often say this, if you look at that with cocaine, and I'd say this as well, you look at alcohol as a depressant, it slows down the central nervous system. So you're drinking both of them, you're drinking, alcohol and you're taking cocaine, you're putting your heart under huge stress, because you have one fighting the other. A stimulant is cocaine is making it faster, the alcohol is slowing it down. But when you mix it, then take the two together in the body, it creates another substance called coke-ethanol. And that is the dangers of it.
And since you started as a drug education officer, I mean, what about the increase in cocaine use, in drug use in general? I mean, has it been incredible? Has it been exponential?
It's what way did I put it? Since 2017, there's been a 250% increase of people using cocaine in Ireland.
250%?
Yeah.
Wow.
And and 300% say increase in people returning for help, because getting help on the first time often doesn't work, and it go back. It's because you're addicted to the drug, and it's a good feel drug. It gives you euphoria, and you chase that, and the mind chases it, and that brings me into another era as well of what's happening as well, Fran, and we're not paying enough attention to it, I think, from a public health point of view. A lot of the drinks that are on the markets now, with the likes of the caffeine drinks, and now we have the vaping, they're stimulant drugs. The caffeine is a stimulant. You could talk about the same effects of caffeine as you could from cocaine, because it's, caffeine, if you take too much of it, it's an appetite suppressant as well. It gives you false energy. Your body races your heart. It puts you in poor mood. All that stuff. And like you look at the nicotine as well is a stimulant as well. And it's in the vapes. And now we have, the vaping is a big issue. And it's like we're training the young people's mind to take stimulant drugs. And what's happening? 13, 14, they're starting to vape. They're taking these drinks, the caffeine drinks, the Red Bulls, the Monsters, all that. It's like then when they get a bit older, they need more. The body is craving for more stimulant drugs. And what's the next step is the cocaine. And I often say to parents, if you're a young person or taking a lot of if they're vaping, it's a red flag. It's if they're taking a lot of these caffeine drinks, they're red flags. And the earlier we can intervene, and going back to our original talk about addiction, the earlier you can intervene in someone's life, I believe, is the better chance to have a stopping. But what happens? People justify their vaping, what's better than smoking, another myth. People justify, sure, they could be worse, they're not taking drugs, because these products are legal, they're only drinking a bit of can of Red Bull and that. And, we do know the medical profession do tell us this about the caffeine drinks. If you're constantly drinking a lot of those drinks, that it won't cause a heart condition, but it can trigger it if you have an underlying heart condition, and that's the seriousness of this. And what happens then is, people are feeling depressed or stressed out because the drug is keeping them awake.
Of course, yes.
But then they're not eating properly or drinking water and all that.
And I'm not making reference to any recent tragedies particularly, but then you put all of this onto our roads, John. And, we're looking at tragedy then, aren't we?
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And like we are seeing, I have like reports here, say drug report as well, like, since... there's the drug prosecutions are on the rise. In 2020 there were 390 people prosecuted for drug driving, let's say. Up to October this year it's 2,050 people. We're not, and the year's not over. And like if you put, and this is, we have had a terrible week of tragedies in Tipperary with road deaths and that. But like, the high risk people, and I know people who have drank and drove and take drugs but their mindset before drinking, I won't drink and drive tonight, maybe I might drive to the pub. And we have to, and this is where we have to put safety measures in place. If you are going out and you're going to drive into town and say, I'll collect the car tomorrow, make sure you give somebody the keys that you can trust at home. Don't keep them in your own pocket, because what will happen? 2:00 tomorrow morning and you have a load of drinking, I don't know if you take drugs or whatever, it's becoming the norm. Your mindset changes and you have your key in your pocket. What are you going to do? You can't get a taxi, it's cold, it's raining. I'll chance it. And this is how it can happen. And this, and the roads, and if you even take the ordinary drugs that are there, with cannabis is huge as well. Cannabis has huge hallucinogenic properties, and people who drive with cannabis and drive with cocaine, like particularly with cannabis, their perceptions are altered. So, distances, speed, all that is disorientated, and that's a big worry. Yeah. And again, over the Christmas period, it's a hard time, because we're the media and everything now are sucking us in. This is a great time of celebration, and I heard, as a Susan Gray this morning, like the amount of families that are without the loved ones this year because of, not just car crashes, but lost people through drink, lost people through drugs for this time during the year. Now they won't be sitting around the table, and and I'd say to people drinking as well, if you are out with friends and they're drinking and they come in at home, and I say this to parents, like, make sure they're safe. There's no point giving out to somebody when they're drunk or have drugs on them. But I think your responsibility as a concerned person or a friend that's with them, if somebody is drunk and they're getting sick, make sure they're on their side, that they're not asleep on their back, because we know people who have died, unfortunately, because they've smothered on their sick, like, you know what I mean?
And to parents out there, I don't think the point has ever been made on this programme before anyway, John, of that pathway you describe, which is vaping, the energy drinks, and then requiring stimulation as the years go on more and more, which may lead you to making a decision about cocaine or some form of drug. I haven't heard that point made before. So what would you say to parents out there then? Because it seems harmless. Because all the young lads now have a monster drink in front of them everywhere you go.
And I think we've gone away. See, if we look at, I suppose, the whole process of drink and drug use, one thing we've gone away from, and you're right, Fran, is we're not talking about the progression of somebody's use.
Yes.
We're talking about the problem when it occurs. The services will deal with the problem. But there's a progression, and somebody who ends up, let's say, taking cocaine, somebody who ends up taking heroin, they don't decide tomorrow morning that I'm getting up and I'm going to become addicted to cocaine, addicted to alcohol, addicted to heroin, or the cans of Red Bull, or the caffeine drinks. It happens over a process. And we can be, I suppose, oblivious or ignorant maybe to the process of somebody going down that road of alcohol use, drug use, stimulant drug use. And we're not educating our people enough on this. We're not educating our parents. And the problem with it, if we look at it, like the biggest killers of drugs, or the biggest killers of substances, basically, like, you know, is alcohol and tobacco, Fran. And they're legal. Those drugs are legal drugs. Now I do think we will see a public health, and I know some of the agencies worldwide are coming out with the likes of the caffeine drinks. Like this is going to become an epidemic, but we're not, you know, we're not hearing the public health effects. It's just to say, oh, it's a can of Red Bull or it's a can of Monster, we can drink it and it's good to keep us awake, alert at time. But we're not telling the young people how much you should drink. And they say from 13 to 18-year-old, you should only drink 100 milligrams of caffeine per day. Now, there's 80 milligrams in a can of Red Bull, right? There's 150 in a can of Monster. And you're meant to drink that over the course of the day. But you tell me anybody that you know that had drink a can of Red Bull or a can of Monster, they'll drink it within 10 or 15 minutes. They're not pacing it, because that's where the addiction comes into it, friend. And we're not educating them. And that's where it starts. And the process needs to be different. And if you look at when I would have worked in the treatment centre as addiction counsellor in Ashland and in Asherie, and you'd ask the young people and all the people to talk about their drinking history. And there's a progression. You know, you don't start being a full-blown problematic drinker the day you start drinking. It happens over a period of time. And what would be very evident with people, and we don't talk enough, it's not alone does their drinking or their drug use increase, but their consequences increase along with it. And we have to see that. If you're constantly getting in trouble or telling yourself, I'm in hard luck, or, you know, life is hard on me, and, you know, I'm unfortunate, like, you know, I was unlucky to get caught for drunk driving, I was unlucky to get caught for drink driving. You're not unlucky, like, it's your drinking and it's your drug use.
And you're excusing that.
You're excusing that, you know what I mean? And we need to educate the people on that. And, like, you take it at the weekend as well, you know, you'll go to and it's the norm, everyone goes to a pub and they drink, and you think this is okay, but if for the person that has a problem, if you're not really fitting in, there probably is a problem there, and there's signs there, and family, if your family is getting onto you about your drinking or drug, you know, there's a problem there. You know what I mean? They're seeing it, and others will see it before you see it as a person, if you're that person.
And John, you believe, I think, in tough love as well. I mean, anybody under 18 should not be drinking.
The public health tells us, friend, that a zero amount of alcohol for people under 18, because your organs, your mind and all that is not fully developed to say until you're 24 years of age. And if we were to go on that theory, maybe we shouldn't be drinking until we're 24. Right? But 18 is the legal age, and I often get that question asked, what age? 18 from a public health point of view. And you take it from an adult point of view, we have a high tolerance to drinking alcohol in Ireland. And I say this to people when I'm talking, you know, doing talks and that, like, and the amount of alcohol you should drink per week for a male is 8.5 pints per week. And they kind of say 2 free days. Now, friend, realistically, how many people will go out?
Am I looking embarrassed here?
And for a female, it's 5.5 pints.
Right.
Now, but what we can say to you, right, they might seem very, I'll drink them in a couple of, and people do, and that's the way it is. But what I'd be saying to people, like, you know, drink, like, you know, be aware of what you're drinking. And if you need to drink a glass of water while you're drinking, you know, take breaks and mind yourself. You know what I mean? Because there's a responsibility. And see what happens with people. And I say this, and I go as far as saying this, if you go over that level of drinking, let's say on a night out, right, your recommended amount of alcohol, and your mindset is going to change. And if
Yes.
there's drugs around the place, if there's cocaine on the table, and I worked with one chap, I remember, he never bought cocaine in his life, and he was addicted to it because he knew where the parties were, Fran. And he was a clever lad, and he rang me and I knew, and like, you know, I said, "Are you in debt?" "No, I don't owe a penny," he said. You know, and the problem with it now, there are people getting in debt with cocaine use,
yeah.
and that's the nature of it. But when you're thinking on your right senses, without alcohol in your system, you'll think a bit straighter. But you put in alcohol, and often I would say this just with young people when I'm talking to the secondary school students. I'd be saying to him, if I brought drugs into a restaurant, into the schoolroom today, it's 2:00 and doing the talk, and I offered it, what's the chances of him taking? It's very low, right? The majority of people don't really want to go down that road. But I said, change the setting. Next Saturday night, there's an 18th birthday or 21st, your older brother or sister, the whole lot. And I said, you go and you buy your drink down in any of the supermarkets, you have your few cans or whatever, and you go to the party. Now I arrive on with some drugs, with cannabis, cocaine, and I offer it to you. I'm not saying you take it, but what's the chances of you taking it?
A lot higher.
Now
Yes.
you fancy somebody, and they take it. And I said, this is how it starts, you know, and young people do want their parents to collect them. They do want them to be there for them at the end of the night. But what happens? Sleepovers, they can't go home. So they have no choice, they have no excuse to say that Mammy's collecting me or the father's collecting me in that point of view. So they're all little measures that we can help.
And
know.
John, if people require help and advice, who should they contact? How can they?
Yeah, what I would say, like the HSE Substance Misuse Service where I work above, it's 052 6177 900. And we've mentioned it, say, from a point of view, like you look at the voluntary supports that are out there. You have Alcoholics Anonymous, you have Narcotics Anonymous, you have Gamblers Anonymous, you have Cocaine Anonymous out there. You know, we're in an era now that the social media is there. Google those in. There's always somebody there on the end of the phone. We have the Good Samaritans. You know what I mean? There's help. I often say to people, the first step is not about getting to the right organisation or the right agency or the right... It's about getting to somebody and talk about it. And if you need support, you know, you're not the only person out there that's suffering. You know what I mean? It's the help is there.
All right. Well, we wish you well, John, and thanks very much indeed for making time for us today. And a happy Christmas to you and to your mum. I know she celebrated her birthday, I think.
She celebrated her 82nd birthday yesterday over there. She took a bit of a knockout again the last couple of weeks, so she's over in the Cashel rehab in Cashel, and they're doing great work. And I just want to say, you know, and I'd say this to every healthcare worker over the Christmas, because they'll be working over the Christmas, you know, they can't take time off, they have patients looked after, and I see they're doing a great job. And just to say as well, where the mother is in Acorn Lodge as well for the last couple of years, they're doing great work, and we can forget the work that those people are doing, and my life is happier because I know she's in good care, and sure, that's all we want for our loved ones.
Will you pass on our good wishes to her as well, John? Thanks very much indeed for that. We'll take a break, back in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tipfm.com.
A big reaction to John's contribution to the programme this morning, to John Leahy there. Well, we're always delighted to have John on the programme. I know we're going to be chatting to him early in the new year as well, because I suppose it's a time that people make all sorts of resolutions and the like. If you're starting to panic a little bit about Christmas gifts, don't forget that a book is always a great gift for anybody. And as we do every year, we went along to the Bookworm in Thurles to hear some of John Butler's recommendations on what to get and to hear what are the best-selling books of 2025.
John, great to be here at the Bookworm. It feels like my annual Christmas visit here as well. If we start with maybe some of the standout books of 2025, in your view, has there been many?
I think 2025 was a good year for fiction. Maybe not. There hasn't been any standout runaway seller, if you like, this year that I can think of. I suppose a couple of different genres have been very strong. Like the romantasy has continued to grow and really popular with young readers, and I suppose has been TikTok has been a big influence there. And it's great to have that young people, in their early 20s who wouldn't be the biggest readers in if you took the demographics of it, but that genre, that romantasy, and I'm talking authors like Sarah J. Maas, R.F. Kuang with her Catabasis series, writers like that who are huge sellers internationally, and it's fed through to Ireland. So that, I suppose, that genre has done really well and is still doing well, and it's been great. Other than that, very strong Irish fiction from an awful lot of mainly Irish women writers, like Jan Carson, Louise Kennedy, writers like that. There's been some very strong fiction, but as I said, no mad runaway success in those, but all very solid sellers throughout the year.
Yeah. For the kids then, you were saying the younger readers are great, but there's been this huge explosion of teen literature as well, hasn't there? Has that continued this year?
There has, well, particularly and again, it's very much in that romantasy category, if you like, and that has been strong. And again, it's for, I suppose, the slightly older reader. In the younger age groups, the graphic novels have continued to grow and get stronger. And it's not just the Wimpy Kid and the Dog Man and the Cat Kid. You're seeing a far broader range of graphic novels appealing to a wider, segment of younger readers, from age 7 up, including a few Irish writers like Aoife Dooley, a really good graphic novelist. And, you're seeing growth there the whole time. Thankfully, children's books are selling very well, and then you've got there's such a range of beautiful young children's books and picture books, and that that feeds on then to encouraging them to read as they grow. So children's reading is very strong.
Are we still seeing like the popularity in David Walliams, and I know there was a new Diary of a Wimpy Kid out the last few weeks. Is that still as popular as ever?
You are. I mean, I suppose David Walliams has maybe eased off a lot. Maybe the celebrity author idea has kind of waned a bit. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a bit of a sameness about some of his books, but the Dog Man and the Wimpy Kid are as strong as ever. And it's great to have those that to bring young people into reading, and then maybe they'll go on to longer books and more kind of challenging reads.
Yeah. We know as well there's always a big release of books at this time of year for the Christmas gift as well. Are there any kind of biographies or anything, if people are looking for gift ideas, what would you suggest?
Well, there's any amount now. I wouldn't even get through a fraction of them just on this segment. But there's a few lovely books. If you want to stick with the children's books for the minute, there's some beautifully illustrated gift books that any child would love. And the good thing is that they'd appeal to a cross range of ages. A nice big one there is the Animalopedia. This comes from the they're the same series that they did the Irelandopedia and the Historyopedia, Cathy and John Burke, and they're fabulous books. They're kind of a big A3 size book with a huge amount of information and illustrations. This one, so Animalopedia, covers both flora and fauna of Ireland. Lots of little snippets of information, great illustrations. For any child interested in the natural world or doing projects or for schoolwork, these are brilliant books, and
they don't get through them quickly.
And they appeal from maybe 8 years of age up to 14, 15, because there's so much content in them. There's a couple more lovely picture books there for maybe slightly younger. Oscar Wilde's Story for Children in a lovely new edition.
That's beautiful.
It is, illustrated by Lauren O'Hara. It's an absolutely gorgeous book. And to be read to a child, or for a child who's developing reading and is that bit more confident, they'd read it themselves. But it's an absolutely gorgeous book. One, Oscuelga, which is one of the loveliest books that came all year, Pusheen na Mróg, Puss in Boots, Oscuelga, illustrated by Paddy Donnelly, who's done quite a lot of picture books. And this is an absolutely gorgeous picture book in Irish. any child, even if they're not strong at Irish or even if their parents are not strong, it's such a beautiful book.
Yeah.
Pusheen na Mróg, that is. And then just one more in the Irish gift books for children, Enchanted Ireland, an atlas of magical stories from every county, which is, as it says, it's a book of magical stories from around the country. Lovely illustrations. And again, a confident reader could read it themselves, or a nice book to read to a child at bedtime or whatever.
I have that one and I love it. And was there one last year?
There was one in the
Stories
Ghost
of
Story.
Ireland?
He
They're
did a Haunted
beautiful.
Ireland. Yeah, they are, and kids love those kind of mythical and legends and that. But it's a beautiful book. We mentioned already some of the books for older children, and two Irish writers that I'd like to mention. Leona Ford, who's written the Millie McCarthy series. I suppose kids of age 8, 9, 10 will be familiar with Millie McCarthy. She's a kind of an Irish equivalent of Wimpy Kid.
Yeah.
Except she's from Cork, and she's always getting into all kinds of trouble and adventures, and very funny. So if you're looking for something different from the usual Wimpy Kids or the Dogman, Millie McCarthy, a huge hit for young, I suppose, girls especially, but boys can read her too, is no problem. And then Donnacha O'Callaghan, the former rugby player and now radio personality, his books have been doing very well. And this is his second book, Disaster Dad, Fun Day Fiasco. And again, I suppose it's in that David Walliams type of humour, but again, it's an Irish setting and much more, I suppose, kids can relate to a book that's Irish written and set in Ireland. So that's a really nice one for that kind of 8 to 10 age group.
Squid Squad. I've seen that. That's one of your graphic novels.
One of the graphic novels from one of the Irish authors, Aoife Dooley, and this is her third book now and doing really well. And there's another one there, Sarah Bowie, who is another Irish writer, and Nina Peanut is her character, and again in that colourful graphic book format. So there is options and there's alternatives to the usual, the likes of Dogman and that.
And then for the more adult readers that among us.
Yeah, so there's some beautiful gift books again, and I suppose this time of year, lots of lovely hardbacks, which, you mightn't buy a hardback throughout the year, but
you
at
can't
Christmas
beat
time,
a hardback.
That's it, and as a nice gift. And again, these will appeal to male or female, or a gift for a mother or father or grandfather or grandmother. First one I picked out there is Michael Harding's new book. So Michael has published maybe 8 or 10 books over the years, and this is a beautiful hardback edition, which is the first time he's had a hardback, and it's Midwinter, it's called. And I suppose in it he's speaking about winter and how he sees the beauty in winter, and he's used this to kind of get over the darkness and the long nights of wintertime, and actually to see the beauty in the bare trees and in the frost and in the darkness. And he's really kind of just taken winter and accepted it, and this is what he's written about this in the book, and it's really a lovely book. Again, you could give it to anybody. Great Irish Wives.
Yeah, I should be in it, am I?
Well, this is it. As the book says, so many of the famous Irish men in history, their wives have been neglected, or they're invisible.
Overlooked,
but yet, without their wives, these people would not have achieved what they did. So people like Matilda Tone, Mary O'Connell, Constance Wilde, Emily Shackleton, Sinead de Valera, George Yates, and Beatrice Behan, and it's a lovely edition, but it's a book for anyone, male or female, and a kind of an interesting take on that part of history that has kind of been probably undiscovered or hidden a bit.
We've had a great year in sport, of course, as well. I think that's opened the door for some great books. I know we spoke to Noel Dundon on the show recently about his book From the Ashes as well. In terms of sport books, then, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I'd have to recommend Noel's, of course, for the year that Tip have had. And, what was so unexpected a year ago to be All-Ireland champions. And Noel's record is a fine, detailed effort, a detailed account of the year that Tip had, and very reasonably priced. I think it's $16.99. But there's also the lovely Season of Sundays photographic book record of the championship in both hurling and football. Tip aren't on the cover, unfortunately, maybe, but David Clifford is. So well, I suppose they have to get their day in the sun too. And then we have another book that's coming, which isn't just out yet, is A History of the Hearty Cup, which is the senior colleges hurling competition, which should be should have huge appeal in Munster. That is written by Liam O'Donoghue, so that's being launched shortly, and promises to be a fine book. Then there's another GA book that I need to mention called The GA Covered, and this is a history of the GA and the championships through old programmes, and it's actually a fascinating book. It's a beautiful book. You have hundreds and hundreds of pictures of old programme covers. And I think the old covers are far more interesting than the newer ones, which are very corporate and glossy and sponsored and obviously computer designed. But when you go back to the 70s and the 60s and you see the very basic design, but actually they were beautiful designs. But there's also plenty of text in the book. And again, it's a lovely gift for any GAA fan. It's called The GAA Covered. Rugby is also very strong, obviously, this year, with biographies of Conor Murray, Andrew Porter, Andy Farrell, and a lovely book on Munster. Even though Munster hasn't had great success in recent years, this is kind of celebrating the 15 years days. From 2010 to 2025. So plenty of lovely photographs in that too for any rugby fan, and some great colour and action pictures. Yeah,
I'm a little sceptical of the sports biographies when they come out at Christmas. Are they good though?
It depends. There's a lot of sports biographies that are not particularly well written, and I think the exception are some of these Irish ones, though. You know, a lot of those soccer biographies that you'd see coming out with young players that might be only in their 20s, and they're, you know,
but their life story,
their life story at the age of 23, like. You know, but I think in the case of these, Conor Murray, Andy Farrell, they're intelligent guys, and these books are well written. Andrew Porter's book is very good too. You know, so it depends very much. And Christmas time is a great time for sports books. And, you know, outside of Christmas, I suppose they wouldn't sell in huge numbers, but it is an ideal gift, you know.
Can I ask you then, finally, for the people, maybe, because it's difficult to buy a book for people because you have a particular genre, a particular author that you may like, and people may not know that. Are there any kind of real fail-safe books that you can get people, do you think, that regardless of what their preferred genre is, they're likely to like it? That's a tough one now.
It is. I suppose it depends on what you're buying, whether you want a gift book. If you want a gift book, there are so many, especially Irish published gift books this year. There seems to be a great range of hardback Irish books. Even some, you know, people love memories and reminiscences and books on folklore and old times. And there's a selection of those these years. Old Ways to New Days by Shane Lahan is a lovely book. Remnants of Our Past by Deirdre O'Neill. And there's a particularly lovely one. It's called The Irish Farm in Colour. It's like those. There was a series of books there in recent years called Ireland in Colour. There was several books.
Civil War one,
there was, and so they've colorised old photographs. And this is an absolutely gorgeous book. I mean, where do you go wrong with a farm book in Tipperary? You know, there's huge interest in this book, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and not hugely expensive, $27.99. But some lovely photographs. And so a book like that, you know, if you don't know that somebody's a reader, a gift book like that, a coffee table book that they can just have out there on the coffee table. If you know they're a reader, that's a different thing. You pick something, and the good thing is that most bookshops will change a book without, you know, there's no problem really for exchanging books after Christmas. So there's plenty of good thrillers. Richard Osman has a new one. Mick Herron, who wrote the Slow Horses series, which has been a huge hit, and his new book is Clown Town, which is really good. John Grisham has a new one. Mary Cassidy, the former state pathologist, she has a new one that's really good. Lee Child. There are lots of good thrillers. There's lots of good literary fiction. So yeah, across the board, there's, you know, and if anyone is not sure, they can always ask us, and we can suggest something for them. But as I said, you know, there's never a problem exchanging a book. Anyway, often people end up with 2 copies of the same book. That's not a problem either. We'll.
How has it been the run up to Christmas? Has it been busy?
It's been busy. I think it's a slow build up. Money is tight, obviously, cost of living, and I think people are being careful, but hopefully Christmas will come and trade will be, you know, good. it'll be solid, I think.
Yeah, just remind us as well here at the Bookworm, tell us when you're open.
Well, we're open every day from 9:30 till 6 o'clock, Monday to Saturday. And we'll do a couple of Sundays in December as well. So, and we're also online, bookworm.ie. So if anyone is having trouble getting to us, they can have a look online.
Great, John. Thank you again every year. Thank you so much for your recommendations and happy Christmas.
Thanks, Alison. Thank you very much.
And the Bookworm, easily one of my favourite bookshops. Anyway, we would highly recommend it to you. One of our listeners on to say, could you ask Mr. Leahy, that would be John Leahy who spoke to us earlier, in his opinion, now that it's turned out to be extremely dangerous shipping in drugs as a result of the actions of this amazing President of the United States in his country, that these drug boats may now arrive on our shores to exacerbate the already crazy drug abuse problem in our little nation, it says here. Well, I'm not certain that I presume you're referring to what's happening in Venezuela, where the Americans are attacking these boats allegedly carrying drugs are concerned. I'm not sure. I mean, the situation in the States, and God knows here now as well, is so huge. I'm not sure how much good really that is going to do to the overall picture when you think about the amount of places that would be supplying the States with drugs. I mean, all the way back in 1971, Richard Nixon, he declared drugs as being public enemy number one, and he came up with that whole notion about a war on drugs, and that war has been largely lost. So anyway, interesting comment from one of our listeners there. 083 311 3311. News and information's coming up.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the final hour of Tip Today. Now, earlier on this week on the programme, Father Tony Flannery from the Association of Catholic Priests spoke to us of his disappointment at the Vatican's decision to exclude women from being ordained deacons. That conversation prompted a huge response right across the social media platforms, and one of those who made contact with us was Geraldine, and Geraldine joins me now. Good morning to you, Geraldine.
Good morning, Fran.
And really good to talk to you today. I know you didn't hear the original piece with Father Tony, but you were following the online reaction to it. Where do you stand on this, Geraldine?
Well, I'll tell you where I stand, both on the online and on the diaconate. First of all, I would be somebody who thinks that women should be ordained to the diaconate and also to the priesthood, but we're talking about diaconate. And I suppose I believe that we're all made in the image and likeness of God, men and women. And the argument that Jesus was a man and called men would have been of his time. I think he might do something different today. However, I think that when we discuss this, that we should have respect for the view of the other. The role of the deacon is to build the kingdom of God. Ordination is a sacrament of service. People are called to that. And I suppose the right that men or women have is to be able to discern that call through training. And nobody, man or woman, has a right to be ordained, and it shouldn't be a power trip. But I do feel that women are very marginalised at the table of the Lord, that we don't see any representative of the fullness of God when we go into our churches. You know, I often say we can't celebrate at Masses, it's raining men, hallelujah. You know, we don't see a woman, and that's very difficult. But I do stand with Father Tony Flannery in terms of, you know, that I do absolutely would be behind women's ordination. But I think we need to leave the door open, and I think we need to handle this in a kinder way. Some of the comments on social media are quite dogmatic, and I don't think it's the way to go.
And so you're concerned about division in the church. How would you like it to be? I mean, obviously people will have diverse opinion, Geraldine. How would you like it to be? Would you like it to be respectful conversations around this? Is that what you're saying to me, really?
Yes, I think I would like to build. I think what we are talking about when we talk about the diaconate, men and women, deacons, you often see a deacon if there is one in a parish. We don't have them here in Limerick, but they read the gospel very often.
Yes.
And often why they're reading the gospel is they're bringing the word to the world and the world to the church. Most deacons are bus conductors, Gardaí, prison officers, administrative workers. They're not employed in the church. They don't have huge amounts of power. Like this idea of, that they might be very powerful people, or being a cleric might be very powerful. It's a different kind of power. And in actual fact, I think that women, women do a lot of foot washing, and when Jesus washed the feet of the apostles during the Last Supper, a service. Women do a lot of the holding hands, the service. Men do too, and we shouldn't take that away from them. But I think that we need the fullness of God represented in the church in all aspects of it. And that's where we visually see the male side of it more than we do the female when we're watching, not when we're watching, but when we're participating in a celebration of Eucharist, for example.
What emerged from the Vatican Commission by way of language, though, I felt was very divisive. I mean, just a couple of lines to you, and I'd love your view on this. I mean, they speak about the masculinity of Christ, and therefore the masculinity of those who receive holy orders is not accidental, but it's an integral part of sacramental identity, preserving the divine order of salvation in Christ. Now, that takes the whole argument about ordaining women back centuries, I think, really, doesn't it?
It does. And it is disappointing, but I suppose what I would be doing is, like, I'm a practicing Catholic, and I go to church in the Augustinians, and we have 4 beautiful men, priests, and we also have a brother there, and we also have a female pastoral worker there, leader, a very good example of the feminine in the church, and it makes it really, really comfortable. But I think that, that the people who come up with this, and it's well-researched, well-respected individuals who have studied theology, who see validity in what they're saying. And I don't want to disrespect them in any way, but I think what's missing in that, and this is my heartfelt opinion, what is missing in that, in my opinion, is the whole broader image of God as man and woman, like Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. The feminine side of God is not represented there. And I also see that, I know that they are different churches, but we are many parts, one body. We also have other churches which are part of the Church of Christ, Church of Ireland, Methodist, Presbyterian. The Holy Spirit also moves in those churches, and they have ordained women. And I think it's very important that we understand the complexity of God. So that's where I would have a disagreement with it, where I have a difference of opinion. However, I think it's really, really important that we understand that we are here. Anybody with any ministry in the church is called to serve the people of God and build up the kingdom of God, not to be looking for power or, it's not, but it's very difficult for younger women. I'm looking at my 2 future daughters-in-law, for example, who would have careers equal to my sons. My sons have managed women. They've been managed by women. Very difficult for them who've been brought up in a Catholic home to relate to that. And I suppose I do feel a personal sadness around that.
And for the sake of argument, Geraldine, could I put it to you? I mean, you describe yourself as a devout Catholic, I think, in your notes to us. Could I then put it to you, though, that if we leave aside the whole abuse thing, right, I think part of the damage to the Catholic Church, I feel, over the years, and I'm not a particularly religious person, so I'm kind of looking in on this, is that it's become sort of a la carte. And there's been elements of Father Trendy to it and that sort of thing. And, you know, sort of nudge, nudge, wink, wink, things are okay. Don't be worried about what we're saying with one hand and, you know, we accept you in with the other. Would it not be better to say that I either accept this church as the way it is with its culture and with its history, or I don't and I move on somewhere else?
Okay. Now, I can only...
Now, you know that I mean this with the greatest of respect, and I'm putting this to you by way of conversation. Yeah. Yes.
Well, I'll just give you where I'm coming from at a very deep level. And I actually accept your argument as a very valid one. And I know women. I'm married to a Dutchman, and he has a number of friends he studied pastoral ministry with in Holland. And some of them have made that decision, indeed. That's their choice. And I don't invalidate that choice. I suppose where I'm coming from personally, I'm a baptised Catholic. I believe a call to do anything, and I'm not conservative by any means, and I think people who know me from church will know that. But where I'm coming from at a deeper level is that I'm a person who believes that the primary call we get into any church is from our baptism. And all through the years, I've had my differences with the church. I've had my own personal stories, even through celibacy, the heartbreak that has caused people. I've had personal experience of that. But where I have always gone, I suppose my relationship with God is one that has always called me to stay with the church I was baptised in. And even though I do not believe that everything that's done and every decision that's made is good or comfortable for me, I still continually discern, and I have never found that it was right for me to leave, but it is right for me to speak out. And I think that every church needs loyal dissenters. We're not the enemy. And if everybody walks, then everybody walks, and there's nobody left to make a change inside, frustrating as it may be. If we all walk, then what are we left with? You know, to whom shall we go, I suppose? And that is my own. I know I am called to be a Catholic, a dissenting Catholic in many ways, and I feel very welcome in the Augustinian community where I am now. And I spent 3 years working as a pastoral worker in Venezuela when I was in my 20s, and was with people when they were dying, when we had no priest, and stayed with them during the night, and came home. Now, it's much longer ago, it's about 35 years ago, but came home to a lot of closed doors. So I do have that heartbreak. However, I do, and I understand why people would walk, and I would not be saying they're wrong. But I'm looking at the Association of Catholic Priests. They've taken the heat of the day. They are still there. They are still loyal. They must still feel that same thing. That's why I suppose whether they're 20, 30, 60 or 70, they are who they are. And I suppose I am who I am. And that needs to be said. And it's about the service. It's the building up of the kingdom of God. Trying to make life better for the people. Trying to seek social justice. Trying to seek peace. That is our role, any of us. So I don't know if that answers your question, Fran, but that's where I'm coming from.
Geraldine, it answers it beautifully and eloquently, and I could talk to you all day on this. And thank you very much indeed. And I wish you a happy Christmas, and I hope we can talk again on the programme, Geraldine. I would love that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you very much for your call, Fran.
Take
care.
Good morning to you. And that's Geraldine there speaking to us extremely eloquently. I wonder, do you have an opinion on what she's been saying to us this morning? 083 311 3311.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puck On. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, delighted to be joined in the studio by Charlotte and Muriel from Omni Medica in Cashel. And we're going to kind of look back, aren't we? We're going to look back over the year and the big topics.
We are, and we're going to keep it light enough, because we're not going to be telling people they can't do things over Christmas, but we're going to look back at
So we're going to have the light version of IBS, are we?
Fran, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, let's lighten up IBS.
Yes, okay.
But anyway, the big topic, IBS was one of the big topics.
It was, and you can't lighten up IBS. And it's funny because that's one of the big ones that I've had even all this week in clinic.
Yeah.
Like, people are coming in kind of as in the last check-in before Christmas, and it's really like, what can I do and still get through and be okay? Because with IBS, like, you are going to be unwell. You're going to have the bloating and the cramping and the diarrhea and the constipation and things like that if you go off track. So you have to be able to monitor it to some extent and kind of monitor even how much off track you go, because you are really unwell with it, like the nauseousness and everything. And it's with IBS, it's about what you can't have, literally, like as in your Christmas dinner is going to have dairy, like your stuffing, your ham, things like this, like even your gravy. Like all of those things in an IBS
really
world.
feel for people with IBS around Christmas time with the Christmas meals.
It's awful. Like, people come into me and they'd say to me, what can I and can't I have? And if they don't have IBS, I'm like, or some condition like that, I'll say, you're actually very lucky. Have it all. Enjoy it to pieces. January's the time to reset, and we can go back to it again in January. And nobody really puts on a massive amount of weight over the space of 3 or 4 days. Like, you can eat for 3 or 4 days. You can't eat for 3 weeks or a month, but you can do, or even a week, and you're going to be fine. But with IBS, you can't really. It's a lifestyle condition, and if you don't manage your lifestyle, you're going to be you're going to have all those.
And is it about that forevermore you have to manage that?
You have to manage it, but you become very good at managing it. Like,
I suppose.
Like Charlotte would have a lot of the chronic conditions. You actually realise, like, if I'm going to have wine or I'm going to have alcohol, I'm going to be unwell. So you need to know, maybe I have nothing on tomorrow, so I can take it easy. Or even people with IBS, like, if they go out for a meal, literally like 2/3 of the way into the meal, if there's something in that meal that doesn't agree with them, their stomach will totally bloat.
Do you have
I've always had it. Yeah. I have inflammatory bowel disease, IBD. I've had about 8 surgeries.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you
there's a reason
careful.
I'm super healthy. Like, I have to be.
Well, I was going to say, you must be really careful about everything.
I have to be,
eat.
because it's not worth the repercussions. Like Muriel's saying, we all like a glass of wine and cake and this, that and the other, but I really have to ask myself, do you want to feel really bad for the next sort of 5 to 7 days? I kind of struggle with that. Is the wine and cake worth feeling really bad? And I think the age that I'm at, the answer is no. It's actually not worth it. I rarely drink now.
So if you had an inappropriate meal then and maybe a glass of wine, you'd suffer for about 5 days?
Yeah, and I have arthritis. I think I was telling you that. I'm having surgery in January. Sure. So anything inflammatory I put into my body automatically just sets my arthritis off. So I just have to be really careful about what I eat. I avoid things like starches, high glycemic index foods, saturated fats, alcohol. I really limit alcohol. I wouldn't even have 1 glass of wine a week now at this stage, I would say. It's way less.
Wow. Yeah. That's an incredible insight, isn't it?
It shows in your face, like, it shows even like you become inflamed. Her eyes can even get puffy, that, you can see immediately she's had something. But that's what I get every day from people, like, what can I actually do in relation to it? But if you're out for a meal, Fran, it ruins your whole night. Like, if you're onto the main course and next thing is your stomach starts expanding and next thing is your trousers won't fit or you're in a nice tight dress and you look like you're 6 months pregnant, and the same even for men, that you're really uncomfortable. Like, I've women saying to me, like, I literally just have to go home. I'm waiting for the next 2 hours or whatever to be over, that I can open the top button and just literally lie on the bed and put jammies on.
Right, and I know we want to skirt through a lot of stuff today, but if you feel that you have those symptoms that Charlotte described or that you're talking about, I mean, how do you even begin to address that?
Well, it's the 5 pillars again. You have to work on, it's the nutrition, hydration, like water is crucial, you know. It's stress management, it's exercise, and it's sleep. They are the 5 pillars, and you have to work on all 5. You don't have to do amazingly well on all of them, but if you can get 70 to 80%, the diet you have to do well, but if you get 70 to 80% on the others, like exercise moves food through the gut. Exercise reduces inflammation. If you're wakening at night, so even sleep was one of the topics that we got a lot on, like, and if you can't fall asleep, so it takes you longer than 30 minutes to fall asleep. If you wake up more than once or twice at night and it takes you longer than 20 minutes to fall back to sleep, well, if you have any chronic condition or you have you're predisposed to it, that lack of sleep can actually exacerbate it. So that can, really elevate your IBS symptoms as well.
Charlotte, you and I would have spoken a lot about skincare right throughout the year as well, but one of the things that came up was that it's very expensive to look after your skin properly. Is that the case?
No, and I go mad when I see these influencers online suggesting that you need an 11-step skincare routine, because it's just hokum. You know, I always say to people, pick the key area that you want to target. So, for example, if you have oily skin, spend your money on the cleanser. A cleanser that has something like a salicylic or a glycolic acid that will help to slow the production of sebum that will lead to fewer breakouts. If your problem is wrinkles and fine lines, then pick a serum that diminishes wrinkles and fine lines. If your problem is pigmentation, then look for a serum that has a tyrosinase inhibitor like a vitamin C or a niacinamide that will help to calm down that hyperpigmentation. If your issue is sun damage, spend your money on the SPF. So you don't need to spend your money on the complete range. Just pick that key concern for you and put your money there. So, for example, if you have oily skin, you don't have to spend your money on the moisturiser. The cleanser is key for you. Do you know what I mean? So it's about sort of divvying up that budget, right? Where am I going to put my spend? Because the other two products either side of that don't really matter. It's just the one that really concerns you the most.
And some of these serums, I mean, I hear that it's costing €100, €120. Is that necessary?
I don't look at the price. I actually look at what's in it, like with Muriel and the food. Turn it around and see. So if you're buying a vitamin C serum because you have post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation or, you know, hyperpigmentation from the sun or something like that, look at the percentage of vitamin C in the product. Like up to 15% is what we look for. The closer to that number, the better. Some serums might say vitamin C and then you turn it around. It doesn't tell you the percentage of vitamin C. That means it's a trace amount. That's an inferior quality product. Generally, the more you spend, the higher the concentration of the active ingredient, and that's why they tend to be priced that way. But you know what you're getting.
Right.
Yeah.
So it might be expensive, but it might be the right thing as well.
I don't like to use the word expensive. I like to say costly, because expensive to me sort of suggests that it's not worth what you're paying for. And if you are getting a vitamin C that is 15% L-ascorbic acid, then it is worth €100.
All right, okay. Muriel, diabetes, well, the second biggest thing, I suppose, that we spoke about right through. And again, when you consider that we're going into that period of time now where all the sweets are there, all the gorgeous stuff, the chocolates, the desserts.
Diabetes is scary, to be honest, because...
what, the amount of it that you're seeing?
Yeah, like, I'm in this world 25 years at this stage, and like, even up to pre-COVID, it would possibly be, I'd say, maybe 1 in 10 people would present. And like I keep saying, that was even like the age profile was 60 plus. Like people are presenting now in their 40s. A lot of the illnesses now are coming through in their 40s into your 50s, you know. Now, it can be pre-diabetic, as in your numbers are starting to creep up in that, but there's so much of it, even back down along into like teenagers and that. You're talking now, I'd say, at least 1 in 4. That's what I see every day, right?
That's incredible.
It's incredible. And like it's preventable. It's lifestyle. It's what we're putting into our bodies. And I suppose it's the fact that people don't know, Fran. That's one of the biggest things for me, that education is key. But what to do over Christmas? Do you eliminate everything? No, of course you don't eliminate everything. If you eliminate everything, January is going to be Christmas, because you're going to end up eating anyway in January, you know. I think you pick and choose what you want. So you don't need 10 boxes of roses or whatever. Choose wisely. Like everybody knows now, say roses, the cacao content isn't in them. You're not getting value for money anymore. There's nothing good about them. Whereas if you pick, say, something like Toblerone, something like Thornton sweets, something like is it the Geraldine, the shell sweets? These sweets have good ingredients in them. There's like 5 or 6 ingredients. They still have sugar, but pick something that you actually like and enjoy that over Christmas, if that makes sense. But do the balance thing. Say like Christmas morning, I cook 2 turkeys. I'll have 1 turkey for Christmas morning, maybe even cooked on Christmas Eve. So I'll have loads of protein. I'll have loads of the good foods there. And even when I'm doing the platters, I will do things. And like, I know people buy the fruit and it's never eaten, but even if you have mandarins or you have nuts or you have things like that, that can stabilise the blood sugars. You know, so if you're still putting sugar in, so if you have chocolate, but you have a few nuts or something with it.
So this is balance.
It's a balance, totally, yeah. Like, you don't need to eat all day long, but if you eat some of the proper stuff, that'll stabilise that you're not even as hungry. And I wouldn't leave sweets and stuff out in full view, like whatever, everywhere, because you'll automatically start picking. Whereas if they're not there and you have to go looking for them, you know, have your 4 or 5 or 2 or 3 or whatever it is, and then put them away again, your blood sugars will still become elevated. Like if you are diabetic, if you can't manage your sugar levels, if you're going to put in totally processed food, your blood sugars are going to go up. So if you can just help manage that. And the other thing is drink, Fran, drink loads of water. Like have lovely jugs of water left all over the house with mint and with lemon and with different things in them.
Do you mean even if you're having a couple of glasses of wine?
Yeah, if the water's in view, so if you had the water left beside the wine, like you will, if you see it, you'll pick it up and you'll have a drop of water. The other thing is, which we find it hard to do on a day like today, but walk walk. Like I said it last week or the week before, like 10 minutes after any meal. If you move at all, you're moving food through your system. You're moving that sugar out of your cell. So like literally, they're simple things. Water and walking are two of the easiest things we can do.
We spoke about hair quite a lot this year as well. Can I ask you though, Charlotte? I mean, as we age, is hair loss not inevitable?
No. It's not.
Is it not?
No, it's not. So both male and female pattern hair loss is actually an enzyme that's handed down to you through either the maternal or the paternal side, which actually makes your follicles sensitive to DHT, which is a byproduct of testosterone. So if you don't have that enzyme, you won't lose your hair as you age. You will only lose your hair as you age if you have that enzyme. So the good thing about male and female pattern hair loss is actually the most treatable of all the hair loss conditions that are out there. But just because we age, it doesn't mean that we have to lose our hair.
But does it not thin?
Yeah, our hair definitely thins over time. We have about 100,000 follicles on our head. So obviously when we're born, the cells are really active. You know, as we get a little older, cellular turnover, it decreases. Your hair can definitely become thinner, but it doesn't mean that you're going to go bald just because you're aging. I was actually looking at Dick Van Dyke yesterday. He turned 100 this week.
Incredible, yeah.
He has such an incredible head of hair. He's super healthy. Like, he's still dancing, still does, yoga. He's very fit, but he has all of his hair. He obviously doesn't have that enzyme.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you have the enzyme, then what can you do?
There's so many different things you can do. It depends on the road that you want to go down. So obviously there's topical medications, but they come with their own side effects. They can be toxic to pets, particularly cats. They can be lethal. Oh. Some of the oral medications, they can cause things like erectile dysfunction. For me, it's all about doing things naturally. It's catching people at the right time. So there's 7 different stages of male and female pattern hair loss. I like to catch people between stage 1 to 5 because that's when they're sort of guaranteed the best result. For me, it's about follicular regeneration. So things like PRP, exosomes, microneedling, polynucleotides, stem cells, they're all big crazy words, but they're all forms of growth factors. They're natural growth factors that are contained within our body. They just help to regenerate your own follicles so that you can produce that hair again yourself without medical intervention.
Weight loss, Muriel. I mean, I'm certain that once the new year starts, people will present themselves at your door saying, "I want to lose weight. What's the story here? What do I do?" What do you tell people when they come to you and say, "Look, don't give me a whole load of nonsense. I just want to lose weight"? What do you say to them?
I can't believe you've asked me that question 10 days or whatever, and then today's Christmas. He's looking at me here smiling.
Well, do you know, I had this conversation.
That's like having a shotgun to somebody's head.
I had this conversation last night with somebody who said that they are going to eat and drink for Ireland over the next few weeks, and then they're going to address the whole weight thing.
Do you know, this is the one that gets me shot all the time because I'm totally the opposite, I think, to 9 out of 10 people that are going to be on the internet when the 1st of January comes, or even from the 28th that people are starting to bleat on about it. I don't do calories in versus calories out. I don't do restriction. I don't do any of that, like weighing your food.
Does that surprise people when
they come into me? Totally. I don't do, like, if you have weighing scales, I tell people to get rid of it. I don't do any of that monitoring thing. And I know anyone that's listening to me now that is in that world is going to die and think, like, she can't get success, that just can't work. My world, Charlotte will tell you, 9 out of 10 people lose weight and they keep it off consistently. And they feel so well because there aren't any parameters like that. What I do is teach people the basics of go back to where we were 70 years ago. Treat food properly. Treat food as a medicine. Stop with the rubbish and the nonsense as in the processed food and all that kind of thing. Eat consistently 3 meals a day. The proper amount of fats, proteins and carbohydrates. You don't have to weigh or measure. You actually learn to do it visually. Like somebody will say to me, how many Weetabix can I have? And I'm like, you have as many as you need until you're full. Put your nuts and seeds, you put a fat with it. Put your milk with it, so you put a protein with it. Have a proper breakfast and then you're full. Have a snack at 11 o'clock and then you're full. Have your lunch at lunchtime, a proper lunch. Again, tuna, salmon, chicken, whatever it is, with your brown bread, or even like there's some really good sourdough breads out there if you want that, baby plates, whatever it is. Have a very good lunch, then you're full. So as you're coming into evening time and you're ready to sit down, you still have your dinner and you're full. So by the time you sit down at night, all the women, all the men, and even that were in with me this week, they say to me all the time, I can't believe even when I sit down at night, that was my trigger, that there isn't any food nice. There isn't any food nice at all. It's gone. And the weight starts coming off because you're not restricting. The body needs to know it's going to be nourished. If the brain feels you're going to restrict, it's going to go down a rabbit hole of, well, she's going to restrict, so I need to hold on to what she has and I need to drive her back to the press for more of the wrong stuff. So it's back to the basics, Fran. And don't start on the 1st of January. Like I say to people, if you're doing a diary or whatever, get it back out by the 28th or 9th and start writing down what you're eating, because then you can see, what you're having and are you having enough and all that kind of thing.
And I know I've said it to you in the past, but I'm sort of a little sceptical about the diary bit, because I figure we all know what we eat anyway. Why do we need to?
Like, for somebody coming into me, now the diary for me is crucial as in to manage chronic illness, to manage even things like IBS and that, because somebody might still have the symptoms.
Yes, I can understand it for that.
And I can't. But even with the weight loss piece, there's two things. It kind of keeps you accountable that you are still eating and you're eating the right foods. So if you go off track and you don't know, like, why do you feel miserable or why do you have food nights in the evening time, if you look back over your day, you can actually see, well, I skipped lunch, or I didn't have my normal snack at 11 o'clock, or I only had one Weetabix at breakfast time, or I missed breakfast because I was too busy with the kids. There's always a reason. But like, I can't remember what I had yesterday even for my tea, never mind what I had like 10 days ago. Do you know what I mean? We're so busy, we don't remember. So if we actually write it down, it's a prompt. It's also a prompt as in, I get people to write down if they're walking, if they're drinking their water, things like that. So you're learning about yourself and you're educating yourself, and even your brain is taking things in. And like, it's the the front lobal part of our brain that helps us habits and all that kind of thing.
Very interesting. One of the plagues, I suppose, of puberty and teenage years would have to be acne. I'd say it would be up there among the top 3 or 4 anyway, Charlotte. And the diet and the part that plays in acne, or is it a case that it's genetic and there's bloody all hell we can't do anything about this?
Yeah, so acne, again, like male and female pattern hair loss, is actually a hormonal condition. So it's the increase in androgens during puberty and sometimes even menopause that creates that sort of excess sebum on the skin. The sebaceous glands go into overdrive, produce too much oil, and then people get sort of spots and breakouts, etc. But yes, the diet is key, because inflammatory foods, Muriel talks about this all the time, cause inflammation in the body. So acne can become inflamed if you have a diet that's too high in sugars, saturated fats. What you need to do is look at an antioxidant-rich diet. So antioxidants like vitamin C, for example, they're found in berries, tomatoes, various fruits and vegetables. They help to fight free radicals and environmental damage. And it's the same with low sugar, low saturated fat foods actually help to calm inflammation in the gut. The difference between someone who has acne and a good diet and someone who has acne and a poor diet is massive. I can tell when they come in what their diet is like, just by the severity of the inflammation in their skin. I put them on, I have a skin analyzer. It's a bit like Muriel's body analyzer, has a thermal imaging map. So anyone that has that diet that's high in saturated fats and high sugars, their face is on fire. I can see immediately when they come in, versus the person that has the better diet. And I find now with younger people, they are very well educated about nutrition. Generally, they know to avoid the triggers already. I think a lot of them are very clued in because of things like TikTok and Google searches. They know what to eat now.
Can I drag you in on the conversation I had with John Leahy earlier on? We were talking about drink and drugs and the like, and he made a very interesting point. That pathway of kids vaping and the caffeine drinks and then needing stimulation and more stimulation as the years go on. The caffeine drinks, I know you feel really strongly about that.
They're crazy. Like, you're getting, like, in some of them between 3 and 6 times the caffeine that you're going to get in a cup of coffee. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if I was to have an espresso, any of us were to have an espresso in the morning or a double espresso, like, you feel it instantly. Like, that's 2 shots. So you can imagine they're inside in gyms. They're everywhere. Like, they're doing their exams. They're everywhere with these cans, whatever they are, the energy drinks. Yeah. So I'm so against them. Like, I wouldn't mind even somebody having like a can of a normal fizzy drink, even, like the sports ones or things like that, like that don't have the huge amount of caffeine. But the other ones, I really agree with, is it Australia? That now you can't buy them if you're under 16 or whatever. I think that should definitely...
that should be the case.
Totally, yeah.
So you would feel that strongly about it.
There's a starting place, you see, Fran, isn't there, for what you were talking to John about?
Yeah,
the starting
absolutely.
place is the younger you give somebody something like an energy drink, you're creating a pattern and a habit that they are going to want more and more, and a higher level of stimulation as time goes on.
And that brings us to sleep then. And again, it was one of the big topics of the year. And this plays into lack of sleep, doesn't it? I mean, if you're full of caffeine.
Kids are not going to sleep if they're drinking cans of Monster. So if you're wondering why they can't sleep, and the other thing with the energy drinks, it can actually make somebody very aggressive because of the highs and lows. Because if they go up, they're going to come down. So if they're snapping and all that kind of thing, that can be one of the causes, like behind the scenes. But sleep is huge. So many people come into me and they can't sleep, and sometimes it can be some very simple lifestyle changes that can help them sleep immediately. Like, your diet is definitely one of the ones. If your body's inflamed, you're not going to be able to sleep. If you have a heavy meal, like within an hour of going to bed, you're not going to be able to sleep. because your body has to do the digestive piece first, right? Things like alcohol. If you have alcohol up to whatever, say maybe half an hour before sleep, chances are you'll fall asleep immediately because of the effects of the alcohol. But you will wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you'll have intermittent sleep. I've a lot of people when they come in the initial that are having like a glass of wine every night or a couple of glasses of wine every night, and then they're waking up the next day knackered. You have to rule that out if you want to get your sleep pattern back. The other things like screen time, you know, if you're on the phone before you fall asleep, everybody knows that, and even with the kids, to take away the phone or just turn it off or put it on Do Not Disturb and take out a book or something. If you read for that half an hour, you're going to let your body calm down. Stress is massive, Fran.
Yeah.
Like, our cortisol levels are supposed to be at their highest in the morning around 8 o'clock. So many people are stressed out of their mind even going to bed. They're tearing around the house, they have a million things to do, and the next day is in their head already. So when they wake at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they're bringing that on like 4 or 5 hours too early. The melatonin is supposed to be in, and you're supposed to be in a nice sleep pattern. So if you can alleviate the stress or come up with things like the walk, the exercise, like even, and you don't do exercise-induced cortisol at night, exercise-induced don't induce the cortisol at night with exercise. Do something simple like a walk that you're just going to bring all that down. That'll help you sleep a little bit better. And the last thing then really is keep the room nice, keep it dark, keep it cool, right? Keep it dark. What's the other one? Keep it cool. What was the other one I had in my head? Can't be too hot. It has to be, and it has to be quiet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those things are like so important.
Right, and dark, of course, as well. And just finally, the other big topic, Charlotte, was psoriasis, and again posing that question. You know, genetic, is it avoidable? What triggers it? Your feelings on that is?
Yeah, I think there's probably not a day goes by where I don't talk about psoriasis with someone. So genetic, yes, there is a genetic component with psoriasis, but it requires a trigger. I think I said that to you the last time I was in. No baby's ever been born with psoriasis. It takes a trigger, and it's about identifying those triggers so that you can avoid them in the future. Sometimes it can be something as basic as stress or even an injury. Sometimes you can injure your skin and you can get a psoriasis flare that you've never had before. It can be sunburn. It can be something like strep throat. You might get like a viral infection that lives in your body and it can trigger that psoriasis. So identifying the trigger is key before you ever set about treating it, because otherwise you don't really know why it's flaring. So avoiding those triggers is definitely the best way to treat psoriasis. Yeah,
it's a coincidence that we're talking about it now, because somebody had texted in to say, what about diet drinks, and can that cause a psoriasis flare-up? Is there a link there?
Yeah, you're back to inflammation again. So Muriel talks about the gut pretty much every week on here. You know, there is an inflammatory element to psoriasis. There's 5 different types of psoriasis, obviously, so knowing which one you have is key, but inflammation will definitely cause flares, particularly if you have something like a lactose intolerance, a sensitivity to a certain ingredient, and you're putting that in your body. It's going to aggravate every single inch of your body, and your skin, as I say every time, is an organ. It's the largest organ in our body. If you have an underlying intolerance, the skin is probably the first place that you're actually going to see it.
Interesting. If people want to talk to you, I know that at this stage you're wrapping up for 2025, but if they want to make appointments and chat to you in
tomorrow.
the new year,
We're done tomorrow.
So
4 o'clock tomorrow.
We're never done.
We're never actually never done. No.
Yes, but you will talk to people early in the new year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will be like online with my patients even over Christmas. So yeah. But our number is 062 88 002.
You see the way she's just showing off.
She's a professional. She is.
Year on a high.
All right. Well, we wish you both a very happy Christmas. I know it's been a busy year for you, so thanks very much, Niamh, for coming into it today. Thank you. We'll take a break. We're back with more Tip Today in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip Today on 1-800-938-007.
Now, the Tipperary senior hurlers will be taking on Kilkenny before Christmas in a repeat of last season's All-Ireland semi-final. Liam Cahill's men will take on the Cats at 1 p.m. this coming Saturday, December 20th in Templetoohy. Now, the game is a fundraiser for Mary's Meals, a charity dedicated to feeding children in some of the world's poorest countries. Now, our own Leanne recently met with the chairperson of North Tipperary Mary's Meals, John Egan, and committee member Phil Bowe ahead of the game.
John, I'll go to you first. Would you mind just giving us a reminder of Mary's Meals and really how it got started?
Yes, Leanne, it started in 2002 by a guy called Magnus McFarlane Barrow, who was a Scotsman and who had experience in the charity area. He went to Malawi in 2002 to meet some 2002, yeah, to meet some friends of his, and they brought him to a tent, or a mud hut tent, where there was a family of 5 children and 2 parents. The father had already died from AIDS, and the mother, Emma, was dying from AIDS. And she said to Magnus, the only thing I can do now is pray that somebody will look after my children. So Magnus spoke with Edward, who was the eldest of the family, and he said, look, what can we do? And Edward very clearly said, if I could eat 1 meal a day and go to school, I would have enough education to get a job, and I would be able to take care of my siblings. And that was a light bulb moment for Magnus. So he went to the local school where these children attended, and he took over the school, which was 200 students, and he guaranteed them enough food for 1 meal for the entire school year. And the results at the end of the year were only phenomenal. And it was the blueprint going forward. The principle was very simple. The food was sourced locally, brought to the school, and the mothers of the children cooked the food and distributed it and washed up afterwards. And in 2025, Mary's Meals are now feeding 3 million children every day, right across from Syria, right across through Africa and into the Caribbean.
How did you get set up here in North Tipperary?
I had a good friend of mine, Paul Galvin, up in Tullamore, and he kept annoying me until I got in touch with the lads here, and we decided we'd do something. So we did. On December 22, we set up the North Tipperary branch of Mary's Meals. And the first year we raised 50,000, little over 50,000, and on the second year we raised over 80,000, and we're going pretty well to get to an 80,000 this year as well.
And I know the last time I spoke to you in August, you did a very exciting walk and cycle. So how did that go?
That was a great venture. Martin here cycled in 31 parishes in South and West Tipperary, and Darren Dunn swam 22 kilometres from Ballina to Killaloe, and I walked from Thurles to Knock. And between the three of us, we raised 25,000 euros or thereabouts, which was an enormous sum of money, So again, it was the generosity of the people who gave us the money.
And Phil, you've a very exciting event coming up at the weekend. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, yeah. Look, last year we actually held a match similar to the one that's coming up now between Tipperary and Kilkenny. Last year we attempted to have a game between Tipperary and Clare inside in J.K. Brackensfield in Templemore. Weather wasn't permitting on the day, but a couple of weeks later we organised one between Laois and Tipperary, and it was a great success. And I'd say we probably brought in maybe between 10 and 11,000, which was fantastic. So that's kind of Martin's brainchild, we have to say, and he went at it again this year. And now we have organised a game between Kilkenny and Tipperary, the senior teams. So you have Tipperary, the All-Ireland champions. You have Kilkenny, you'd say, as always, would be All-Ireland champions. And they would probably be looking at last year in the semi-final, whereby they'd be saying to themselves, Tipperary maybe just got away from them, and Kilkenny were a bit unlucky not to be in the All-Ireland against Cork. But as history says, Tipperary got to the All-Ireland and won the All-Ireland. So it's a really kind of attractive prospect now. Even though this is the end of the year, we would be kind of looking at it as maybe the beginning of the year, where we have Tipperary and Kilkenny, the border battle. I saw a fellow was calling it the other day, and we'll be having the game in Moynton-Matui GAA field, which is Templetui field at 1 o'clock on the 20th of December. So that's a Saturday, maybe a Saturday, a bit awkward for people, but surprisingly enough, a lot of people will be off around that time coming to Christmas, so we're hoping to get a decent turnout from all the Tip and Kilkenny supporters.
And where will the money go then that's raised on the day?
So obviously it'll go first of all to our North Tipperary branch of Mary's Meals, but of course we will be sending that on directly then to the national organisation of Mary's Meals, and they look after it then for delivering that the way they do through the proper channels to poor children and Mary's Meals organisation worldwide, wherever they're designated.
And how can people get tickets?
Well, we're doing most of it by just paying on the way. We have tap and go machines on the way in, and we will have buckets on the way in. That's the way we're going to do most of it. And we can also do it on the QR code, can we? We can also do it on our QR code on the programme, and a QR code on any of our posters, etc., that you see around the area. Before we kind of finish up, is that there's the Tom Cunningham Trust is an important point we'd like to make this evening. The Tom Cunningham Trust has nominated 4 or 5 different charities, and luckily enough Mary's Meals happens to be one. So from the 11th of November 2025 until the 12th of January 2026, which is a window of about 2 months, and it's getting shorter now, but during that period of time the Tom Cunningham Trust will match all the funds raised by those charities. So they'll match the funds raised by Mary's Meals. So in other words, if somebody's thinking of attending the game and paying a tenner donation or admission on the way in, well, they're really actually giving €20 because the Tom Cunningham Trust is going to match that fund. So in other words, Mary's Meals will be getting €20. So anything donated to Mary's Meals or an attendance at that fundraiser is going to mean a massive amount of, it'll really double the amount of funds raised and help an awful lot of children in the poorest countries in the world.
And Phil, do you mind if I just get you to repeat those details for anyone who might happen to be around on the 20th?
Yes, Leanne. So it's a senior hurling charity challenge match between Kilkenny senior hurling team and Tipperary senior hurling team. It's on in Temple Turvey on the 20th of December at 1 p.m. and that's a Saturday. And the air code is E41DY02.
Hon Tip and all of that. And that's Leanne there speaking to the chairperson of North Tipperary Mary's Meals, John Egan, and committee member Phil Bowe there as well. And the said Leanne is with me in studio. That should be a great game, shouldn't it?
Oh my God, I'd say it'll be very competitive and very, very busy.
I'd imagine so indeed. But I'd love to get to that. Tell us about what's happening tomorrow. Because we were so busy today, weren't we?
Oh, it was so busy. That conversation around the deacons and the priests, if females should have the opportunity, that'll continue again on tomorrow, which it has been 900 comments.
900 comments?
900 comments.
Wow.
On the 2 posts about that.
And largely the feeling would be?
I was surprised, like I said to you earlier in the week, that the majority of females that consider themselves traditionalist, about 80%, were all against the notion.
Of women, deacons or priests.
Yeah, and they say that gender idea that Jesus came as a man and the disciples were
the
men.
Masculinity of Christ, as they said in the report, It's very interesting indeed. Huge amount of text and WhatsApp into us today. Some of it very eloquent, some of it great funness, and we just didn't get time to go through it all because some of the contributions are very lengthy, but thank you, we always do appreciate it, so it's important to point that out. So tomorrow then, what else are we looking at?
Yeah, we're going to chat to Deputy Ruth Coppinger about that controversial fox hunting bill. It was voted down in the Dáil yesterday. And
she was on with us, of course, ahead of this. So I guess she's very disappointed, is she?
Yeah, she was very hopeful when she spoke to you about it. On social media, there's huge outrage.
Is there?
At the fact that it was voted down so harshly. So it'll be interesting to see what will come of it now in the future, because it seems like the animal activist groups aren't backing down from this row. They believe that something does need to be done. But we've heard from both sides on it. And a lot of the people who might be active in hunting groups don't necessarily want to make themselves publicly known either. So that has kind of been the challenge.
Which is a pity, because we'd love to speak to somebody from a hunt and they'd be treated respectfully. We'd just like to hear from their point of view, just about the traditions, I suppose, and the culture of it and how they view it.
Yeah, because one man rang in today now, he didn't want to come on air, but he said that the odds of them actually catching the foxes are little to none, and the only time he has ever seen them be caught is if they run into a hole and the dogs are able to dig them out. But he said they go out for enjoyment and they feel like people are trying to rip away their hobby. I know there's been a lot of controversy over the word hobby in regards to fox hunting, but also it's a part of their tradition and they look forward to it.
All right, okay, so we'll tease that out on the programme tomorrow. Anything else I should know about tomorrow?
Yeah, we're going to chat about teen addiction figures. So there's a huge, stark increase in addiction figures.
Drugs?
Drink and drugs, yeah. which it has, people are saying all the time, it's becoming very, very common. So there's a new report out on that. So we'll have a look at that as well and see really as communities how we can address the growing issue.
All right. Now, if people want to talk to us at any stage, of course, you can email tiptoday@tipfm.com. Our free phone number every day is 1800 938 007. Leanne, thanks very much indeed. Leanne produced, Ellie looks after content. Stephen has the time tunnel on the lunchtime show, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll be live from our studio in Nina at that point. Look after yourselves in the meantime, won't you? Bye-bye.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon, main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.